Hey everyone, guess what? It's not just my favorite time of the week, it's hopefully your favorite time of the week as well, because it's Friday, and that means that it's time to look at my wrestlers of the week. I'm indescribably excited, as I am every week, but especially this week because it's week number 10. We've made it this far, and my co-workers haven't gone, Jack, this series is just self-indulgent, mate. Get rid of it. They've not done that. They've been quite supportive. Thanks, guys. And you guys have been very supportive as well, so I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for not only being really nice with your comments about the series and about my own presenting skills, but also about getting involved on Twitter, tweeting me, recommendations for wrestlers of the week. I may not always include them, but I always do pay attention to them if I see them in my mentions. And yeah, it's a great series for interaction. I'm really pleased the way it's gone. And yeah, let's just crack on. This is week 10. Wrestlers of the week. First of all, some honourable mentions as always, and I should mention that this week the New Japan Cup started, but it started today, so I'll be taking those matches into consideration for next week's Wrestlers of the Week. But yeah, honourable mentions. First of all, Adam Page. He had that match at Manhattan Mayhem in Ring of Honor, the kind of War Games without a cage match where it was the Bullet Club versus Matt Taven and his lads. And Adam Page stole the show and was on GIFs all across social media with his insane moonsault from the balcony down to the floor. Well done. I also thought Matt Jackson of the Young Bucks was really good in that match. Nick Jackson was really good as well, but Matt Jackson's entrance, I remember he ran out onto the stage, did a big flip, like senton onto some people, and it looked very dangerous and narrow gap, but he pulled it off perfectly. So well done to those guys. Taven as well, I was also very impressed with. Someone I'm not too familiar with, to be honest. Who else? Johnny Impact was good this week on Impact. And some of the 205 Live guys, Mark Andrews, I'd like to give a special shout out to. He was on my league table for most of this week and then just got bumped off towards the end by some other dudes. But well done, Mark Andrews. I hope to include you more in the weeks to come. A shout out also to Sami Zayn, who I think wrestled very, very well on SmackDown Live this week. But I just don't like the storyline. He turned on Kevin Owens, and I think it would have made more sense to turn on Kevin Owens at the pay-per-view itself on Sunday. That would have had much more of an impact. Now Owens knows that it's coming, and I just didn't agree with the way that it was laid out. But that's no fault of Sami's, I just didn't like it very much. But he did well, and the crowd all popped when he hit Owens with the haluva kick. So well done, Sami, as well. I love you so much. You're one of my favourite dudes. But yeah, that's the honourable mentions out of the way. Let's get into number 10. Number 10 is a man we've been familiar with for many years now in WWE, on the independent scene, over in Japan, until he was a bit of a naughty boy. And of course, in Impact Wrestling, Matt Sidell, who has become a double champion. I love double champions in wrestling. I think it looks a bit decadent and silly, but it's also great at the same time. Like, I'm not just good enough to have one belt, I'm good enough to have two. Usually it's heels who are double champions, I think. They normally have two belts and they really flaunt it, like how good they are. I'm talking about guys like Kurt Angle did it in WWE for a little while, and Conor McGregor in the world of MMA, who is a heel unless you're Irish, I guess. No, he's a good lad. He's a good lad. We love Conor on Wrestlers of the Week. Maybe with this current trend, he'll head over to WWE and he can get on Wrestlers of the Week himself. But anyway, I digress. Matt Sidell, very good match with Taiji Ishimori for the X Division Championship and also the Grand Championship. Ishimori was the X Division champion and Sidell beat him, took his belt away and secured a solitary point at number 10 on Wrestlers of the Week. So well done, Matt Sidell. Namaste. That's his thing, innit? Namaste. He's a peaceful guy who kicks people in the head. Makes sense to me. Number 9, a regular fixture on Wrestlers of the Week, I must say. And every time I mention him, I go, this is the most terrifying man in the history of... And like, he is terrifying, but I've mentioned it quite a lot now. So I'm going to say this week that he used to be a very handsome man indeed. Minora Suzuki. If you look at a GIF of Suzuki from like the early 90s with his full head of hair and his... Oh, he was quite dishy back then, but now he just looks like a straight up killer and proved it once again, defending his IWGP Intercontinental Championship against Togi Makabe, who I should have put in honorable mentions as well because it was a really good match. And Suzuki this year has been, ever since that match at Wrestle Kingdom against Hiroki Goto where he lost and got his head shaved, he's just been a boss. All of his matches have been pretty much really good, all of his big main event matches. The interference of his stable, Suzuki Gun, has been wisely limited, I'm going to say. Wise on the booking, on the part of Gedo and all the booking committee over in New Japan, because sometimes it did take away from his matches a lot more than it added to them. They stayed away from this match. Suzuki beat Makabe and continues to tear people's limbs off and hit them really hard. And if wrestling isn't about anything other than tearing limbs off and hitting people really hard, Pleased, that made a loud noise, pleased with that. Then what else is it about? Congratulations, Suzuki. Little 2 points to you, nudges you a little bit further up the table. Number 8, another Impact wrestler, but a man also who's been on this list already, and he's been sat on 1 point for a couple of weeks now, but now he's got 3 more. Austin Aries, who holds every belt in the world right now at the moment. I mentioned that I like double champions. Austin Aries is like a quadruple champion or whatever, but in Impact he only holds 1 of their titles, and he defended it successfully in the main event of the show against Johnny Impact this week. It was a really good match. It was the best match on the show, I reckon, in my opinion, and Austin Aries continues to be the main figurehead for Impact. Interestingly, Alberto El Patron came out and like sarcastically applauded him, and Aries responded with an equally sarcastic bow, so I quite like that. It looks like it's going to lead to a big match between those two further down the line, maybe at a pay-per-view. And yeah, I hope that Aries keeps the belt, actually. I mean, I know that El Patron's a good wrestler as well, but I just really like Austin Aries' position in the world of wrestling at the moment. He's in a very key position because he obviously left WWE and has, you know, exploded back onto the independent scene and back into Impact. And he really is key for them. If Impact are going to improve a lot this year, as they've said they're going to do, and as they seem to have done this week on television, then I think Austin Aries is their main dude, and I think he should keep the title for the time being. Well done, Austin Aries. Well done, sir. You're really good. Good lad. Number 7, wow, 205 Live now. In it good? Isn't it suddenly the best show on television for WWE? NXT as well on the network's really good, but on TV, 205 Live is knocking spots off Raw and SmackDown, particularly poor SmackDown, every week. And I think that fully justifies the man who occupies number 7 on this week's list, Drew Gulak. Gulak had a very good match in the Cruiserweight Championship tournament against poor Mark Andrews. I wanted him to win so badly, but at the same time, Gulak has been awesome recently. He's been wrestling like 3 times as well as he normally does. He's always very charismatic and funny, but I like this new serious side of him. It's faintly reminiscent of when Kurt Angle sometimes dropped the goofy gimmick and reminded everyone that he's an elite level wrestler and one of the best in the world. Gulak has started, instead of previously on 205 Live, when someone would go up to the top rope, Gulak would be like, no, it's the no-fly zone, look at my PowerPoint presentation, oh no, and then you get hit with the move. These days, if someone goes up to the top rope and jumps at him, he just forearms them right in the face, which I guess is a sound strategy, really. So yes, Gulak won and progresses to the next round of the Cruiserweight Championship tournament. I think he's pretty much a shoe-in for the final as well at WrestleMania 34. And I wouldn't complain about that at all. I think he's wonderful. Just want to mention as well, I talked about SmackDown a few moments ago. If the booking of SmackDown hadn't been so questionable since the start of the year, AJ Styles would clearly be on this list, but he's just been hamstrung so badly. I mentioned when I popped Ibushi on the list recently that he's probably the best wrestler in the world, not to yet be on the list. Now that he's on the list, and maybe even before he was on the list, you could have said that that belonged to AJ Styles, and he's still not on. AJ, when are you going to be allowed to shine? I suspect we might not see him until WrestleMania 34, and then he's in with a very good chance of picking up all 10 points. Number 6, a man who I would never have expected to be on this list a few months ago, considering his position, his frustrating position in NXT. He was never really getting pushed. He was always in dark matches or house show matches or just very short matches on TV. Didn't really appear on a takeover. It's Buddy Murphy, whose transition to 205 Live has been absolutely spot on. Buddy Murphy, and I hope I'm not too controversial in saying this, he ran the risk of being the Mark Mero of the 2010s. Mark Mero, of course, was a very capable wrestler in the Attitude Era and didn't get over because everyone was more interested in his private life, specifically who he was in a relationship with, Sable, at the time. Sable is now, of course, Mrs. Lesnar. I mean, imagine your ex-girlfriend's got a new boyfriend and it's Brock Lesnar. You'd just be like, fair play. Fair play, he's probably a better boyfriend than I am. I'm not going to question it. But at least then, when Miro and Sable were together and Sable got more over, that was part of the story. He was playing kind of a jealous boyfriend. In this case, Buddy Murphy kind of gets overshadowed because he's with Alexa Bliss, but they're never in storylines together. It's quite unfair on him. So I'm delighted for him to have such a wonderful match on 205 Live against someone else we'll talk about in just a second. But Murphy, man, my memory of this match is him taking spike bumps on the front of his head and flipping over and landing on his back and just looking like he was dead. He was wrestling a little bit, this sounds weird, but a little bit like Rob Van Dam, not offensively, but in his selling. So Buddy Murphy, congrats, man. Fully deserving of being on this list, and I hope that, I mean, he lost, but I hope the fact that you've been knocked out of the tournament doesn't hinder you too much at all. Don't Herfy Murphy. Hashtag don't Herfy Murphy. Make that a thing, go on. Number 5, Buddy Murphy's opponent, and another newcomer to the list, Mustafa Ali, who worked the arm in this match in the most unique way I've ever seen. There was one part where Murphy's arm was draped over the bottom rope, so Ali popped up to the top rope, did a 450 senton and landed on his arm. That's the sort of stuff you want to see in 205 Live. That's the sort of thing that we've been seeing since Triple H took over and since this tournament started. I'm very pleased for Mustafa Ali. I know that he's a good wrestler, and I know that he's incredibly athletic and incredibly talented in the ring, but I've never really connected with him that much. I've been too distracted by other guys in the division. But after this match, I'm certainly going to be paying more attention to him. He really showed what he can do. And while I don't think he will go on to be Cruiserweight champion, I suspect that may be Gulak. I do still think that he could be a major player in the Cruiserweight division going forward. So well done, Mustafa Ali. Don't Mustafa. Don't Herfy Murphy. Number 4, now I remember a couple of weeks ago when I popped some Dragon Gate lads on the list. Well, this week I was having a quiet night at home and I thought, what better to do with my time than watch some Japanese wrestling? Of course, we all love it. And I watched the most recent Dragon Gate main event between Benkei and Masaki Mochizuki. Benkei is my number 4 on this list. Benkei doesn't mean, it's not a shortened version of his name. He's not called like King, that would be if he was my brother. No, he's Benkei means like the strongest warrior or something like that in Japanese, and he certainly is. He's a built lad, and he also wears nice long shorts, and I always like that. Good look. He looks like a bit of an American indie wrestler who's decided, well, I'm wrestling in Dragon Gate now. I'm going to wear my long indie shorts still, but I'm going to smarten them up and make them a bit nicer material. So I appreciate that, Benkei. He was excellent in this match. You could tell that he was the less experienced of the two, but his power moves, man, were awesome. He was scooping his opponent up, big power bombs and all that sort of stuff. He lost the match, unfortunately, because I really liked him and I was impressed by him, but he redeemed himself with a heartfelt, like heart-wrenching promo afterwards. Like, he was in tears, he was, I couldn't understand a word he was saying. It was in Japanese and there was no English commentary. But I imagine he was saying some profound stuff. He might not have been, he might have just been reading a poem that he'd written the other day and it was terrible. But no, I think he was crying, it was heartfelt. I think, let's assume that his promo was good. Let's welcome him onto the list. Well done, Benkei. You're one of my wrestlers of the week. Number 3, his opponent, Masaki Mochizuki. Now, he's one of the 2 Dragon Gate guys already on the list from the other week, and he is... I didn't realize this at first. He's in his late 40s and wrestles like he's in the prime of his life. He is a phenomenal wrestler, and I think if he was wrestling for one of the bigger promotions like New Japan or WWE or something like that, he would be regarded as up there in the elite level. At 40, I think he's 48 or something, and he's just insane. As I mentioned before that Benkei was the less experienced of the 2, but whenever he looked a little bit lost or wasn't quite as sharp as more experienced opponents would be, you couldn't really notice because Mochizuki just... his improvisation and his characterization and everything you want in a wrestler, all the intangibles, all the little things were absolutely dead on. I was very impressed by Mochizuki indeed, and I'm delighted to give him 8 points this week. He's leapt up quite a lot in the table, and I mean, if I keep on checking in on Dragon Gate, he could do really well. So I endeavor to do that. I'm going to keep an eye on Mochizuki and as many Dragon Gate guys as I can. Number 2, Kazuchika Okada, the wrestler of the year for many people in 2017. Can I just point out, I don't say year weirdly. A lot of people in the comments are like, oh yeah. Well, you know what? Maybe it's just my accent. Maybe you should stop being such a bully. It's alright, I'll calm down now. Number 2 is Kazuchika Okada, who had a match with Will Ospreay, and it was as great as you might think. Now, I read some reviews of this match online before I watched it, and the reviews were like, yeah, it was alright, 3 stars, yeah, it was okay, 3.5 stars. I think Meltzer gave it slightly more. I watched it, and I thought it was great, and I honestly think that a lot of these reviews are just people getting sick of Okada's dominance. He's slowly becoming the John Cena of New Japan. I mean, he is already the John Cena of New Japan in that he's clearly the top guy, and the guy they protect and push all the time, and he's held the belt for a long, long time as well. But I really think that people are starting to get bored of him, and that's a shame, because he's really good, and all of his matches aren't the same. The only same thing in all of his matches is that he wins all of them, I guess. But this match was great. It was a unique story because Ospreay and Okada are both in chaos, and it was the story of like the cocky leader taking on the younger upstart, and Okada played that perfectly. He wasn't taking it too seriously at first, then he kicked things into a higher gear, so that was, and really unleashed some nasty offense on Ospreay, and I'm just continually impressed by him, and I think a lot of the criticism is a little bit unfair. When he drops the belt, remember, it's going to be huge for whoever takes it off him, and I think that man will be, let's think of a random person on the New Japan roster, Captain New Japan. He will be your next IWGP Heavyweight Champion. Number 1. Now right, look. I may come in for a bit of criticism for this. My number one is Will Ospreay. And everyone's going to go, Jack, you're so biased to Ospreay. He's already number one on the list. And that's true. But he has never been, I checked this, and I thought I'd previously made him Wrestler of the Week. I hadn't. Ospreay has never been my Wrestler of the Week. I just think he's excellent continuously in a consistent manner. So don't be saying I'm biased, because I've never made him Wrestler of the Week. Kenny Omega's been Wrestler of the Week twice. Ospreay Wrestler of the Week no times, except for this week, when he does pick up the full 10 points for that match at New Japan's anniversary show against Kazuchika Okada. Ospreay always wrestles well, so it's hard to watch one of his matches and look at it critically, because his baseline, his base level of ability is so high, higher than most other wrestlers in the world. But this match as well, I really enjoyed his storytelling. He was determined to prove to Okada, I'm not just your understudy in chaos. I'm as big a threat as you. And for most of the match, until he lost at the end, he certainly proved it. Another nice moment I enjoyed was before the match, when he was in the corner getting ready and stuff, and the Japanese crowd started an English Ospreay chant, like, you know, the Ospreay, Ospreay, Ospreay. They started doing that, and his face was like, I've made it now. I've made it. They know my song. It's brilliant. He was very good in the match. My favourite part, my favourite spot, was when he picked up Okada, held onto his arm like Okada does for a lot of people, looked at him and thought, am I going to do this? Yeah, I am. Bang. Rainmaker, or the Nando's maker, as a lot of people have called it online. Bang. Big Rainmaker to Okada's face. It was huge. For a guy who's a junior to do that to a guy who's a heavyweight, that's a big deal in New Japan. You rarely see singles matches between juniors and heavyweights, and you rarely see a junior blasting a heavyweight, the biggest heavyweight, their Cena, with his own finishing move. This was huge, and I can't not give him Rest of the Week, guys. I can't not do it. So just accept it, okay? Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, and also, if you could tweet Ospreay saying, well done, you're Jack's Rest of the Week, that would annoy him a lot, because he hates me. So do that, please. Thank you. So if we take a look at our league table, you can see that Will Ospreay has leaped ahead of his competitors. He's now a good few points clear, but don't worry, there's still a lot of the year left to go. It's not a foregone conclusion at all. For example, Okada has now leapt into the top 3 as well. He's knocked Kenny Omega down to 4. Johnny Gargano's still in second, of course, after a great year so far. Suzuki's crept up a little bit. Mochizuki's jumped up a lot, and I wouldn't bet against him doing so more in the weeks to come. So that's all for this week on Wrestlers of the Week. Thank you very much for watching. It's been exciting. It's been a very high quality week, I must say. There's been no big WWE shows, but it's been high quality in terms of lots of promotions pulled out of the bag, man. Impact were great. 205 Live was great. Raw and SmackDown weren't that good. New Japan was excellent as per usual, and Dragon Gate was very good too. So all the big hitters had a good week this week, which made it very difficult indeed. But thank you for watching. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com, and you can follow me on Twitter here. If you enjoy what we do, you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Cultaholic. And most importantly of all, do not forget to subscribe and to join us.